pretty in the W, even though we have this sport where they play with a pigskin called football that starts in essence this weekend with week one
Nonsense.
college football and then NFL next week. But don't forget about the baseball, of course, Betting Weekly Hardball right here on the Bet Rivers Network that precedes this program as we get down into the playoff races. Hopefully we get more intrigue. Adam the Bull and I were talking about that yesterday. It's like, is anybody from the outside going to come in here? And not sure it is going to happen, but certainly a lot of games and a lot of betting opportunities, and also still in the WNBA as we are getting down to the home stretch in the regular season.
Yeah, but in all seriousness, I was laughing about football. It's like, all tickets catch the same, as we
Right.
say. So if there's opportunities here, there are opportunities. And I want to start with game 2 of the Ion doubleheader because we have a short point spread here. And, you know this Indiana Fever team really well as the Fever visit the Sparks. LA's won all 3 meetings, and you've said that they are a bad matchup for the Sparks are a bad matchup for Indiana. So what's your read with LA laying a short number, but the Sparks, the Fever were impressive in their last game, but matchup wise, this should be a layup on LA, right?
Yeah, this is the type of matchup that actually where there are certain ones where maybe they can get by a little bit without Caitlin Clark, and there are certain ones where they can't. And this is kind of one of those because I think that this favors Caitlin Clark, to be in a high tempo matchup. We know the Sparks like to get up and down, arguably the fastest pace in the league, but the Fever, I just wonder how they're going to play that. And that's what the Fever want to play, but they're so shorthanded. I think, Doug. Yeah, when you look at who they've lost this year, Caitlin may be back by the end of the regular season. We shall see. But losing Ari McDonald, losing Sid Colson, losing Sophie Cunningham. We have seen, Chloe Bibby, even though I believe she's going to be back tonight. They've had so many hardship players that they've had to sign. Like you have Odyssey Sims now. You have Shea Petty. You have Ariel Powers now coming in off the bench. So it's a really weird mix for the Fever. They got a huge win the other night over Seattle because they were down in the 8th spot. Now they flip-flop and they get into the 6th spot. Sparks, by the way, currently 1.5 out of the playoffs. Golden State, by the way, would be the 8th seed right now tonight at 19-18. So the Fever got a little bit of a buffer getting that win, but yeah, I'm looking at this, Doug, and we haven't seen a ton of movement. We've seen a little bit of a movement to the Sparks. The 1.5s by and large have disappeared. Now it's up to 2. Rickea Jackson, of course, went down with that leg injury in the last game against Phoenix. So is she going to go? So there's a lot of unknowns here, I think, in this one. I think at the rim, they may be able to score at the Sparks. I think this could be a tough offensive night for Kelsey Plum. We shall see, but I have not bet this as of yet. I'm waiting to see where this goes. I think a lot of people are going to say, okay, the Fever are due, so it's time to come in here. But the style matchup I don't really like, especially with this Indiana team so shorthanded.
I agree. I think Rickea Jackson being questionable is a huge variable. I think her or Hamby is their best player. I really do think they're the best player. I don't think Kelsey Plum is. So I can't bet it. I have to know if she's playing. But to your point, it is a bad matchup for the Fever. And Odyssey Sims dropping 20-something off the bench the other day as a starter is just crazy. But if you're a quick point guard and can shoot, I think you're so much more valuable than some of these people. That's why I've never said Haley Van Lith is a professional in the W because she's too slow. You need speed at that point guard position. Lexi Holt, doesn't she have like 2 black eyes as well from a collision?
She does.
Now,
she does. Yes.
Yeah, I think the bench is actually pretty solid. I think Dantas does a really nice job, and I've really appreciated Ariel Powers off the scrap heap, just delivering with some energy and some rebounding. So she's been a great find as well for a team that's trying to keep it together. But I do think the Sparks can run them out of the gym. I have to know if Rickea Jackson's playing.
Mm-hmm.
And both teams are sort of desperate, right? But the Sparks got a monster win over the Storm in their last game. For me, the Fever did. For me, it's Sparks or pass. Would you have to wait to see Jackson's status? What's your sort of final read on this game here?
Yeah, I would be along the same lines with you, Doug. If Jackson doesn't go, obviously Cameron Brink is who we've been monitoring in terms of her minutes if they are going up, and they fluctuated a little bit. Like she only had 14 against Phoenix the other night, and I think maybe that was because they trailed. But if the game is competitive, even with Jackson out, you certainly would think Brink would get more minutes, even though they don't really play the same position. But they need to work her in a little bit more because I think she is the best defender that they have by far in the paint. Way
Oh
better
yeah.
than Hamby, better than Stevens. You know, Stevens steps out a little bit and shoots those threes as well. So, you know, Brink would certainly, you would think, get a few more minutes for the Sparks tonight if Rickea Jackson doesn't go. But Jackson has been really the one, you know, Miss Jackson, if you're nasty, who has really come on the last several games. I think 16 against New York, 15 against Dallas, 17 against Washington, 25 again against Dallas, 21 the other night against Phoenix. So you've really seen her, and then had a couple down games before that, and then had over 20 in the 3 prior games. So she is starting to get more confidence, where I think long term, she has the highest ceiling of anybody from an offensive standpoint. And if Rickea Jackson, if there's more confident in her, then Kelsey Plum has shown, I think, the willingness to be a little bit more of a ball distributor. And you know, not just be necessarily a shot hog and a chucker. Like I've actually seen her try to get other people involved into the offense. So, you know, Kelsey Plum's offense, in terms of a point standpoint, probably suffers with Rickea Jackson certainly getting more clock and getting more time. But yeah, tough for me to get involved yet without knowing if she is playing.
These teams are high scoring, particularly the Sparks are high pace, but we could have sort of a playoff atmosphere with the measured possessions, the defensive intensity. I'm not willing to go there. I escaped the other day with an under 177.5 when the Sparks played the Mercury. I don't think I can go under with this low of a total,
Yeah.
but I'm also not ready to pull the over trigger yet either. What's your read on this total?
Yeah, same for me here because you know, you would think, okay, playoff intensity, are we going to get more of a defensive game? And that certainly I think is a reasonable question. By the way, this is the third or the first of, I believe, a 3-game road trip, last Western road trip of the season for the Fever. And they have Golden State, I believe, and then they have Phoenix. So that first game of this road trip, you would think is where you're going to get your most focus because it's like we got to start out right. So that's why I'm a little bit lukewarm to lay the Sparks. Anyway, even if Rickea plays, you know, we'll see how high that goes or what kind of a difference that makes in the number. But Sparks unders are a tough nut to crack, man. If you're betting this team, just because the defense is not as good, and Lynn Roberts has them playing obviously a much higher tempo now. I do believe did they go? I think they went just under the other night, if memory serves me correctly, against Phoenix, 92-84. But this is a deeper Phoenix team that can play a wide variety of combinations. And then against Dallas, it was only 81-80, so that went way under the total. But you've seen some really high scores in Sparks games where they've gone over 100 or they've given up 100. In fact, last time they played the Fever was August 5th. It was 100-91. So yeah, I can't get there on the under for sure.
Okay. All right. So something to consider. Let's go to the next game. I do want to mention I did hang a bagel yesterday, 0-3. So, you know, I've been flexing all week. Our show's been on a roll. Albert did go 2-0. So we're 9-3 for the week. But brutal beat with the Liberty scratching and resting a million players right after our show. That certainly changed the landscape of the game, but definitely want to keep some transparency and do some housekeeping and inventory. So I wanted to mention that. Now, game one of this Ion doubleheader, we have seen quite the line movement here. The Dream, sizable home favorites at 15 with the Dallas Wings, the lowly Dallas Wings in town, 165. It's now moved to 11.5 because it looked like everyone was going to be out, but Paige Beckers is available to play. So she was listed as questionable. She missed the last game. We were big on the Sun the other night. And but doubtful or out. Isaiah James is out. Haley Jones, doubtful. Geisel, Doder, Yaru, Quinterly, and Enrique are all out. So this is a shorthanded wing squad. They had to file some sort of a waiver or something to the league to see if they can claim someone. Slim pickings, so to speak. There are only, I'm counting them, 8 players available for Dallas here, but Paige Beckers is. I think this is a hammer for the Dream. I've been picking on this wing squad. I think they have the worst coach. And so we are updated to 15.5. So there's been some line movement. I was reading the screen. So we are, in fact, at 15.5. So Beckers is available. That doesn't mean she's going to necessarily play. She missed the last game with an illness. How are you reading this game and what could be the highest spread of the season?
Yeah, and you look at who is available, by the way, for the Dallas Wings. You have a 29-year-old rookie who's actually played solid in the couple games she's been with them. Amy Aquanquo is a 29-year-old rookie who they've had to have on this team for hardship. They just picked up Serena Sundell, the rookie out of Kansas State. Grace Berger obviously has been well traveled this season. I think this is her 4th team. This is her 2nd time with Dallas, by the way, and then went somewhere else and then went back with Dallas. So, that's who they're down to here. Hines Allen available. Diamond Miller should play as well. Kristen Williams, but they just don't have hardly any healthy bodies here. So I understand why this has gone up toward the Dream. Now with the Dream, they are I believe they're in the 3rd because they were in the 2nd spot, and the Aces actually beat the Dream the other night down there in Atlanta. So you wonder if there is a little bit of a hangover, I think, in that, because of how much they put in to try to beat the Aces. Aces beat them twice in like a little bit over a week. Remember, they lost by 2 out here in Vegas, and then they lose by 6 at home Wednesday night. So you do wonder a little bit, like, okay, the Dream, we know what they're playing for the seeding. The schedule, by the way, for the Dream, let's take a look at this really quickly. Dallas at home, at Connecticut, Sparks 2 games at home next week in Atlanta, then Connecticut Sun at home, and then at Connecticut. The Dream no longer play a team with a winning record the rest of the schedule. So I wonder if they get up big here. And then if you maybe see more liberal substitutions from Carl Semesco in this spot where it's like, okay, well, we still got games. We don't want to risk an injury. So we get up on a team. We know the game is in hand. Then do we rest, instead of like really trying to prove a point and totally drop the hammer on this shorthanded Dallas Wings team. So that's why I was considering maybe some player props under for the Dream, maybe Ryan Howard under points. But yeah, with Dallas so shorthanded, I just worry that this could get out of hand, even though I don't think that Carl Semesco is going to like really go pedal to the metal and play Gray and Howard and most of their stars, 35 minutes plus.
So the Dream were down like high double digits, like 15, 18. And then they had the Wings were against the Sun the other night. Then they had a huge run where the Sun didn't score a field goal the final like 5.5 minutes, and it got cut to like 2. So I was impressed with the Wings' effort, at least. The key for me is if Paige plays. Now, if she doesn't, this team might not score 60 points. I mean, they are pretty limited. Grace Berger can't do anything. Some of these others, they were shooting the lights out early on, and that's just not going to happen again. I know what you mean we had a double digit. Some teams take teams lightly, right? So the Mercury yesterday against the Sky started really slowly. And this Wings team, Diamond Miller's okay. Seacrest can shoot. Hines Allen starting. Like, this starting lineup's kind of better than the one we saw the other night. And then if Paige plays, it's way better. I think 15.5's a lot. I can't lay it, but I don't want to grab it. What would you need to grab it? Like 19? I would probably take 19.
I would probably take 18 in this spot. I think Connecticut, they were an 18-point underdog at one point this season, weren't they? I think that they were. I'm trying to remember offhand.
It feels high. I just remembered the Sky winning as a 15.5-point dog last week or so at the Liberty, and I thought that was the highest all year.
Right. You may be right. I don't have the point spread log in front of me, unfortunately.
Yeah,
but I don't. Yeah, I don't want to lay this number because you do wonder if there's a hangover effect. But this could also be, we get up comfortably and we're up in the 20s, and then it's the fourth quarter and it's like, how much do we really want to press Ryan Howard or Alicia Gray or Brianna Jones? You can only go, by the way, so deep because you only have so many spots on these rosters, by the way. So that's why you sometimes see these players still playing in blowouts, because you can't just clear like in the NBA where you have a full 12 and it's like, okay, I've got guys at the end of the bench that I could play bulk minutes if it's a blowout in the fourth quarter. You just don't have that many available necessarily on the roster.
I agree. And that's, remember, Fee got hurt when they were up like 30 to against Vegas. So there was some questionable decision making there by Cheryl Reeve. But I understand what you're saying, because you can't play the entire second unit the entire fourth quarter. Like, they need a rest too. So you should stagger them a little bit. I lean wings. Honestly, if Paige plays, I would wait. I have to know Paige is going to play. Just because she's available doesn't mean she's playing. Like, remember, she's well enough. She could be just well enough to play in an emergency, right?
Mm-hmm.
In that case, right? So we don't have a Hoosier situation with Ollie, with four guys on the court or whatever. So but maybe the dream, take it slow. Do you consider Wings first quarter at all? Like we saw yesterday with the Sky start off well.
Yeah, let me look and see what that is. That by the way is 4 at Bet Rivers. I would need a little bit more to be honest with you. If it was like 5 or 5.5, especially
4.5 minus 122.
Yeah, I would be a little bit more interested to get, the full 5 or 5.5. Then at least I would take a look at that. But otherwise, that's a stay away for me.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's a good breakdown. I think that's fair. Any props or anything like that? Anything catch your eye in that regard?
Boy, with Dallas, I have no idea who to play. If I don't know that Paige is going, somebody's got to score, so those could get accounted for. So you have that Okwongwo, who has been piling up some numbers just because somebody's got to with all these players out. I would look a little bit maybe at like Ryan Howard under her points. She has not shot the ball well as of late, really cooled off from a hot streak a few weeks ago. Especially if you're a player that's missed some time or missed a couple games with injury, how much do you really want to risk? You want to keep them so healthy for the playoff run once those get started here in a couple weeks. So yeah, nothing really stood out for me there though. But Howard under points, if that becomes available, would be a lean.
Okay. So a lean to that. God, really tough sort of breakdown of games. Two tricky spots. I want to encourage everyone to join the conversation. We have some people already chiming in. Shane certainly liked your shout out, or I guess that's a song lyric. Miss Jackson, if you're nasty, he said nice. Is that a song lyric, Wes?
It is from Janet Jackson's track, appropriately called Nasty.
Okay. All right. See, I got to know my lane. I asked for input on that. Henry VIII. Hello. I just started betting the WNBA watching your show. I mostly tail your picks, but I took Seattle last night. I'm ahead quite a bit thanks to your hosts and guests. We appreciate it. Henry, that's awesome to know.
I was on the Storm, by the way. I ended up betting that last night at a little bit before tip-off. I bet it at 9, and they got down by like $1 million. In the first half, I was like, what the hell was I doing? That was a stupid ass play. And then I eventually, they eventually got there. And really what Seattle did, they won on the threes. I think they hit like 16 threes compared to 9 for Minnesota. Got to the line. And, maybe Minnesota just kind of fell asleep. Fee, who had that great return against the Fever on Sunday, did not play great last night. The Lynx just did not guard the 3-point arc. We saw Skylar Diggins. Skylar Diggins. I'm still laughing about that last night where she did the electric slide after the game, her and Erica Wheeler, because that's what that's what they do after victories at home.
Right.
And Skylar Diggins was on one, and she's yelling at everybody. Like, the hair was all over the place. And when she's like that she's on one, the former Indiana Miss Basketball. And Skylar Diggins just went crazy last night, and I enjoyed every minute of it.
Certainly was. There's talking some smack. Obviously, the emotions running high given the stakes right now, especially for the Storm. But first team ever, the Minnesota Lynx, the first team ever to lead by 20 plus and lose by double digits.
It's unbelievable.
So it happens. We saw crazy stuff not too long ago in the NBA playoffs with all these crazy comebacks. So it's only fitting that we saw something like that in the W. Cheryl Reeve was really upset afterwards, talked about how they only had 7 deflections. And she says that tells you all you need to know in terms of what's going on with our defensive effort. She was really disappointed. I wonder if they're going to bounce back, and they're a good bet on spot in the next game. Let's turn the page a little bit, look ahead to the weekend. But first, I want to remind everyone, if you like what you hear on our shows, sign up for the newsletter, get exclusive tips and the free Insider magazine. Sign up for free at bettingweeklystudios.com. So let's look ahead to some Saturday games, Wes, because obviously this is our last show for the week. We will not have a show on Monday, Labor Day. So we want to give the team a day off and a lot going on. So a little recharge before a busy fall. And we will resume Tuesday, but want to look at some games tomorrow. Let's talk about the Lynx, who are going to the Connecticut Sun, and they're laying 14.5 on the road tomorrow with 165.5 is the total. Now, conventional wisdom would suggest, okay, the Lynx are going to respond. They're going to storm out of the gates, bet them first quarter, bet them first half. I'd be careful. I think this Connecticut Sun team is really good. I think if there was somebody who said in the chat the other day, if there was another month or so in the season, they might make the playoffs. And I agree. Now, Bria Hartley is questionable for tomorrow. So that's one thing to consider. She's a big piece, cog in the wheel. I do think the Lynx, she's doubtful, I should say, doubtful for tomorrow. So I'm not taking the points because Hartley's a big piece and the Lynx are motivated and everything. But just be careful betting against the Sun team. They've covered 7 straight games. So, Wes, with the narrative that is the Lynx and what Cheryl Reeve said, with this big line of 14.5, how are you seeing it?
Sun or pass here, even though you would expect conventional wisdom, like you were saying, would say Lynx are going to bounce back. This is a veteran team. They are the favorite to win the WNBA championship for a reason, because there's cohesiveness and there's team unity. And they just had a lapse last night. And sometimes that's going to happen. And you're going to have one of those games. And they did last night. But I'm still a little gun shy about laying this Minnesota team, because I think Connecticut, even though they are only 10-28 and they are well out of the playoffs, long eliminated, this team plays hard. This team does give you an effort, and they're playing a lot more of the young pieces too, because I was sweating that the other night when we talked about it on Wednesday when I did play Tina Charles over the points. And man, she was out, it felt like, for almost a full quarter. It's like, are they going to put her back in the game? Because they're rolling with a lot of these young players. They're rolling with Lake Ann. They're rolling with Sonia Rivers. Aaliyah Edwards did get some minutes, not many, but in the fourth quarter. And, it's like, as Charles coming back in, and she finally scored with like about a minute to go to just get it over. But they're playing hard. I think I forget the listener and the viewer of the pod here who brought up, hey, watch out for Anissa Morrow in terms of her props. 11-11, by the way, last night or 2 nights ago in 29 minutes. So she played well. Mabry getting to the line was very aggressive at 18. Lakehan was the leading scorer, by the way, at 22. Tina Charles with 18. Rivers 11 off the bench. Nelson Akota got some time. So this team is playing hard. It would be Sun.
Well coached. You're very well coached.
It would be Sun or pass, because I do think that this coach is trying some things. Maybe that's why Tina Charles did not get a ton of minutes in the fourth quarter, because it's like, hey, I want to see this in kind of a competitive game, which it was with Dallas. I kind of want to see this, I want to see how some of these young players handle these situations. And so that's something to observe here. But yeah, it's Sun or nothing for me.
Yeah, I'm torn because Hartley's doubtful, like I said, but you're right. 14.5 point home dogs of a team that's peaking really at the right time, that's covered 7 straight. That's the only side I would play. I think the Lynx maybe start out strong. I think you can probably get a better number in game. So that's game 1 of an NBA TV doubleheader. Late afternoon. At night, you have the Mercury hosting the Liberty as game 2 of this doubleheader. Now, the Liberty sat a bunch of players like Sabrina Nescu. Natasha Cloud didn't play. Stewie was on a minutes count, but they absolutely trucked the Mystics. Now they're in Phoenix. Mercury escaped yesterday So they're 1.5-point home favorites here with New York in town, or now one, I should say. And Liberty are in danger of like being the 5 seed or something
Mm-hmm.
insane. This is going to be a really good game. I think the Liberty, like Isabel Harrison played great. Um, I think New York's in a really good sort of groove. I think they might have turned the corner. I think they might be getting healthy and peaking at the right time if Cloud plays, if Sabrina plays. This Mercury team's a little shaky at times.
Yeah, I think so too. And some of that, and granted, she's like the key to the offense and she's the point guard or whatever you want to call her. But sometimes I feel like when I watch the Mercury, it's a little bit of focus on stat padding to me for Alyssa Thomas. And she's not the only one player in the league that's certainly guilty of that. And it just feels like, you get some uneven performances from this team. And with the Liberty, I think Sandy Brindello might have been playing the long game here. Knowing that you have a Mystics team that is struggling, that is clearly going with the youth movement and, looking like they are falling well out of playoff contention. They have not played well. So I think she felt confident with Stewie on a minutes count and Misamin and Johannes, Harrison and company that they were going to get the win. And they pulled away. They actually won because this went down, I think, to like 8. I believe what was the close, and they won 89-63, and dominated this game, especially really from the second quarter on. They were down 2 at the end of the first, and then just ran away and hid from the Mystics. So I think Sandy Brindello did that for a reason, and she's an experienced coach, so I'm going to trust her that she was saving for the Liberty, and I think you're seeing how it's priced, Doug, where it's 1.5. I even saw a rogue pick out there somewhere. All hands on deck here for the Liberty.
It's one at Bet Rivers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All hands
I
on
think
deck.
the Liberty are the right side.
Yeah.
I feel like the Liberty's the right side here. As much as I have the futures on the Mercury and I like them, and I've just been I'll tell you what, I'm a little down on Satu Sabali's game lately. I think she's settling for threes.
Mm-hmm.
She's just not having the aggressive nature. I think too much ball dominance from Alyssa Thomas.
Right.
And maybe they were just kind of wanted to go through the motions with the Sky, who they've whooped the last couple times prior to this matchup yesterday. And frankly, the Sky shot 7 for 10 from downtown in the second half alone. So that's what kept him in the game. But this Mercury team, they'll be up for it, but I've been a little down on them. Copper's playing well, AT's playing well, but I'd like to see more out of Sabali. I think the Liberty are going to get this game. So if I had to play it, I would take the +1 at Bet
Sabali
Rivers.
under rebounds, by the way, has been very, very good the last couple of games, and it cashed me a couple tickets because of what you said. So I wanted to echo that because she is kind of settling for threes, and it feels like, Alyssa Thomas, like she's the one that's dominant really on the glass, and this triple-double thing, and it is so ball dominant that takes away opportunities, I think, from her.
I agree. All right. There's 2 more games on Saturday, tomorrow, that I want to touch on. The one game I love, and we'll talk about that next. But first, I want to get your opinion on the Seattle Storm, who, like you said, had the monster comeback against Minnesota, celebrating big win. And now they host the Chicago Sky as 11.5-point home favorites at Bet Rivers, total 162.5. We've seen a lot of the Storm. This tells you all year, is it the Maya Angelou quote? When someone shows you who they are, believe them. We know who this Storm team is. They are not professionally mature enough to follow that comeback up and handle their business against the Sky and cover 11.5. The problem is the Sky are so dependent on the 3-pointer. So if they miss, but I think the Sky, that's the only side I could play. I have to take the 11.5 if I had to play it.
I'll start with the Sky here. I think clearly her shooting percentage aside, and we've talked about it, she needs to be a better finisher and, just keep developing and keep getting better, develop a little bit more ball skill. But the ball moves better with Angel Reese on the floor. It clearly does. And that has made the difference. Put aside the, rebound stats or rebounds, whatever you want to call them. It just moves better because you have to account for her because she is an elite rebounder in the WNBA, even though not yet as a scorer, I don't think. Cardoso continues to score consistently. They are dependent on the threes. They have to be falling from Atkins and from Banham and Kia Nurse, who has shot the ball well the last couple games. So it would be Sky or pass, because this is why I'll get to the Storm. I was on them last night just because I thought, Minnesota might be ready for kind of an uneven performance where they just get by, because they had that great game against the Fever. Fee came back. It was like she was out for 2 weeks. Like they never missed a beat and scored 30 points right away. I wish I would have played her under points last night off that kind of uptick off that outlier performance from the injury. But I look at Seattle. They shot the three very well. And I mentioned that earlier. It was bananas from three in the second half. And that is why you saw them pull away from Minnesota. Yeah, it was Minnesota's defense, but Seattle was hitting a bunch of shots. And I felt that they were good for one of those efforts just simply because there's so many veteran players on this team. When you're looking at Skylar, when you're looking at Erica Wheeler and Ogumike, on paper, this team should be, and Sykes added at the deadline. On paper, that team should be a lot better, but they've been so uneven. And I would not be willing to lay them as a big favorite. I just think, it was a little bit Seattle hitting threes. Skylar had that few-minute period in the third where she really went off. And then I think maybe Minnesota fell asleep a little bit. So I think that result is going to look very deceiving, and maybe you can play against that result. Likely I'll have something on the Chicago Sky in some way or form or another tomorrow.
Ryan Huffman chimes in. I'll be taking the Sky. Storm can't be relied on, and Sky have been performing really well. I agree. They made a lot of threes. They were on the ropes. Let's put it this way. The Mercury had them on the ropes a couple times at 9-point margin, and then they just hit big threes. And yeah, just a reminder, that's the currency right now in the YouTube world. Give us a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. It really helps us with the analytics. Now to the fourth and final game of Saturday's slate, and I think it's a banger, Wes. You have the Golden State Valkyries laying 5 at Bet Rivers with the Washington Mystics in town over under 151. I think this Mystics team right now, from a power rating standpoint, it's either them or the Sky, but at full strength right now, I think the Mystics are the worst team in the league. I think they have 1 foot out the door, ready for the offseason. The young core has a really bright future, but, this is a long season for them on the heels of a college season. They're logging minutes, and I just think Citron's, as great as she is, and she's going to be fantastic, I just don't know if she's ready to shoulder the responsibility and be the alpha in this lineup. I think Shakira Austin obviously helps there, but I don't believe in Sutton. I don't think much of some of the bench. I think they get absolutely destroyed against the Valkyries, who are so well coached, absolutely in desperation mode. It's a cross-country flight for the Mystics off their last game, getting blown out by the Liberty. I think this is a beatdown. I think it's a great wager on the Valkyries -5 at home, just given the urgency of the situation with the final push of the regular season for playoff seeding.
Valkyries have had almost a week off. They last played in Dallas, where they won 90-81 because they had those 2 losses to Phoenix right before that. So, are you going to get a little rust here? Do you believe in rest over rust here at this point in the season? Because we talked about that with the Aces Wednesday night, who don't play till next Thursday. So they have almost a full week off at the end of the season, and so have the Valkyries, who are going to have back-to-back at home. They're going to have Washington Saturday, and then they're going to have Indiana, the Fever, in town on Saturday night. I'm with you in terms of the logic there, because I do feel like the Mystics. What have they lost now? 4 in a row, and they haven't really been competitive. I think
they had a nice start against the Aces, and then they ended up not covering. But they've lost 5 in a row.
Yeah, 5 in a row. That's right. Okay, the game against Seattle, that was the one they were competitive. Ogumike hit it at the buzzer to beat them on Sunday. But that game against the Liberty, when you're playing against that shorthanded of a team, and you've got rookies that have played well, not only Citron, but especially Kiki. Kiki has been, I think, really terrific. I've been making some money on her props. I think she's really developing. So they have a plan in place, I think, in Washington. But we did talk about this in the deadline. It's kind of like if they make the playoffs, great. If they don't, it's not the end of the world because they're thinking long game in Washington. Meanwhile, Golden State, they are now in the unenviable 8th spot. So I could sponsor. I'm wondering why we haven't seen, and I know these lines aren't up a lot of places. I wonder why we haven't seen much movement. Maybe we'll see it tomorrow, but we seemingly
Saw some on the dog. We saw it
yeah,
come down on the
yeah,
dog. It
that's what
was
I'm
6 or
saying.
5.5.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah, I don't
saying.
care.
Why isn't this
I don't
moving to
care.
Golden State? Maybe.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. The math guys shape the market, and all year the math guys have not been high on the Valkyries. They don't respect them because it's the old sum of the parts thing. The player rating, the player up, it's called when they math model. They do it on player evaluations. They're not high on these players, right? And that's why they were left available for the expansion draft. But I believe in Natalie Nakase and what she has churned out with this collection of scrap heap or whatever you want to call it. They've been awesome. And I think they play the right way. They've cut well, they shoot threes, they play D. I don't think the Mystics want any part of this game going into Valhalla. And I think it's going to be a very similar to game that we just saw. Citron will have good numbers. She'll be like 50% from the field, do well from three. I don't think Kiki Arafin's that good. I like her. She went to my high school. I root for her, but I think she's a little on the soft side. She's got some Cardoso issues. Like she doesn't have the want to like Angel Reese does. She doesn't have the edge that you want. So I think they're going to kind of fold. Sutton's okay. I think she's going to be okay. Shakira Austin does have a little bit of an edge, but she's just not that good offensively. Alicia Clark starts. She's the oldest player in the league. She's lost it. Their bench is okay. Like I actually think that second unit of guards is decent, but Stephanie Dolson stinks, especially on defense. So I just think they're really limited, and Citron's not going to go like Kobe mode and just take over and demand the ball every time. If she did, I'd be a little bit more worried.
Mm-hmm.
But she lets the game come to her. She plays off the ball, and if you're well coached defensively and you can take her sort of out of it, she'll still get her looks. But she's not going to dominate and control the game and go for 35. So therefore, I'm going to lay it with the Valkyries. I think they're just going to bomb threes and be really well scouted defensively.
That might be a money line parlay piece for me tomorrow. But look, you've got plenty of college football games to choose from, or some baseball games to choose from tomorrow. Because I feel like Golden State is going to win the game. Putting aside the move against them, I just wonder if the Mystics, if they're really gonna try or what they're going to do here, because they are now falling behind big time in the playoffs. Because there was a thought, hey, this team, these young kids, they might make the playoffs, but gosh, I'm seeing them. What are they now? They're 4 games back, and you've only got 5 games to play. So you are essentially eliminated. Yeah, you are essentially eliminated. So you're really kind of playing a guessing game here, I think, when you're going to get an effort out. I don't think it's going to be every single night now with this team, but you're trying to play a guessing game, I think, when you are going to get that effort. So I think Valkyrie certainly makes sense in a money line parlay piece with,
why not just lay the 230 on the money line?
That might be what I end up doing, actually. So I think Golden State is going to win that game. Now, can they handle the pressure is, I think, the one question for this Golden State, because It's like now you're in a situation that you have not been in a lot this season. So that's the only thing that kind of keeps me away, because I think they have so much more to play for, and I think that they're the better team right now, and certainly in the better form. But when you're not used to like being favorites, sometimes that role is very difficult for a team.
That's a good point. And they have not been as good ATS as a favorite versus a dog, but that's because they were so good throughout the season. But that I just think it's a really good spot, and I'm going to fade the Mystics the rest of the way. But to your point, there is a guessing game. They're not going to just be completely pathetic the rest of the way. They might have some spurts and maybe even a full game where they play well. They certainly started well against the Aces last Saturday. And then the Aces had a great second quarter, covered the first half line, and then finished it off. But that's the Aces playing so well, who've won, 12 straight.
By the way, one thing on the Aces I do want to say, sorry to jump in here. Look, we know that these stars get inflated on player props. Aja Wilson might be like, inflated proof, I guess, because she consistently goes over. Didn't go over the rebounds the other night, but did go over the points. It is so hard because I think some of these players still think, hey, I got a shot at MVP. Even though I think Nafisa Collier, I think she's going to get it and she's the rightful favorite. We've talked about that ad nauseum, but Aja Wilson and Alyssa Thomas are trying. And then they're going to stat pad when they can. Look, they want to get the win, but they're going to stat pad when they can. So maybe that's a superstar you want to avoid playing unders, even though they're inflated numbers on Aja Wilson.
All right. Well, minus 1250 though. Fee is still, that's the betting number for MVP odds. So it looks like Fee's going to take care of business. Wes, you've been undeterred on that. So I applaud you because when it was $2.30, $2.50, you were saying, hey, it's going to be Fee. And sure enough, that looks like the case because it's minus 1250 in the market. That's going to do it for this edition of Betting Weekly Fast Break. We always appreciate you tuning in because obviously a ton of sports going on right now. Like I mentioned at the top of the show, we are off on Monday, both Betting Weekly Fast Break and Betting Weekly Hardball. Both will resume on Tuesday after the long holiday weekend. For Wes Reynolds and everyone behind the scenes who does such an awesome job with the producing, directing, research, all the execution, I'm Doug Kezirian. Have a safe holiday weekend. Good luck with your wagers, and we'll see you back here on Tuesday.